What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. I got a new microphone. Hopefully that'll fix any audio issues I've been having, any of the crackling sounds that I was hearing, at least, from my previous videos and recordings. Yeah, so hopefully sound quality will be better going forward because of this. Anyway, welcome back to my vlog, or just welcome in general if this is the first video you're watching. This time around, I'm going to be covering some kind of mature topics and themes, so if you're under the age of 16, I'm going to say, I request humbly that you do not watch this video. The topic this time around is one that is discussed more heavily in religious circles and, in my experience, especially among Christians than it is among non-religious people, because the topic this time around is gay marriage. And especially since that was passed by the Supreme Court as a law saying, yes, gay people can get married, it hasn't really been so much of a discussion topic in non-religious circles. Don't worry though, if you're not Christian nor religious in any way, there are still multiple perspectives I'm going to be bringing into this, different things for you to consider as well. When it comes to this topic, I have two vastly different ways of thinking about this. The first way, and the quickest, simplest, easiest to answer way that I have of thinking about it, is more the politically correct, I guess you could say, thought process that I have, which says that, there's no reason gay marriage shouldn't be a thing, because otherwise, if you don't allow it, you're ostracizing and excluding a group of people from having the same rights as others just because they live a slightly different lifestyle. And that just isn't right from that perspective. But then there's the far more complicated thought process I have when it comes to my faith-based, moral, Christian analysis on this topic. And I'm going to try to keep it brief, even though I have a whole bunch of thoughts regarding this. Reasons against gay marriage that I have. It is mentioned in the Bible that homosexuality is wrong. It is not God's ideal for us. So, certainly from the Christian perspective, that is the biggest piece of evidence against gay marriage. And then, taking a step back from that perspective, though, and looking at a broader way of thinking about it that can apply more so to everybody, just the way that our culture handles homosexuality in general, I think, is very significantly flawed. My understanding is the majority of people that end up coming out as gay or lesbian or bisexual or whatever, it happens during their teen years when there is all sorts of hormonal changes going on, and there's all sorts of different stuff happening to your body and your mind that is hard to process. So, in a brief little moment, someone will feel a slight reaction or attraction because of someone of the same sex, and then, they start to question themselves and their own sexuality, and it just becomes a snowball effect that, due to our culture that is practically encouraging people to be gay at this point. I mean, the media just so is shoving it in our faces that people at that age start thinking, the moment that they have any doubts, it's like, oh, that must mean that I'm gay, which is not necessarily the case. The fact of the matter is, a lot of times, because of when that is established, I kind of question its validity in some cases. And the problem with making that decision at that point or coming to that conclusion at that point is then you live the entire rest of your life as if that's true, whether or not it actually is, just because of some questions you've had. So if you are having questions of that sort, I would encourage you to just talk to somebody. The best person to talk to would be some sort of psychologist or, somebody who has professional knowledge and experience on this subject and dealing with people who have similar questions. But I realize, A, there's a bit of a stigma attached to doing that, and B, some people don't have the financial resources to go see a professional about it. In lieu of that, I would just say talk to your friends or family or somebody. Make sure it's somebody that's willing to talk about the subject, though, and actually, wrestle with these questions with you rather than just brush it off or jump to conclusions. Because that's part of the problem with all of this in the first place is that, you know, the person going through these questions is generalizing the situation, jumping to conclusions too quickly, and thus overcomplicating the matter, overcomplicating the rest of their lives, really, because of some conclusions they made based on questions they had and what they see in our culture. So, anyway, there's all the stuff in the anti gay marriage column. But taking the other side of the argument for a few minutes, okay, yes, the Bible says homosexuality is wrong, but it doesn't necessarily get into specifically just people committing to a relationship with each other, even if they are of the same sex. That, to my knowledge, is not mentioned in the Bible. It is encouraged that a man and a woman get married together, but I don't recall a passage, unless it's somewhere in like the Levitical laws or somewhere in the early Old Testament laws, that says that two people of the same sex committing to a relationship with each other is wrong. I mean, there are all sorts of loving, intimate, in a way, relationships, even within the Bible, that are among people of the same sex. So it's not the commitment to each other that's the issue with gay marriage for Christians. The issue with it is the consummation of a typical marriage. Basically, it's the physical act of homosexuality. A man having sex with a man or a woman with a woman, that is what is, to my knowledge, specifically mentioned in the Bible as being wrong. The reason that makes gay marriage a bit of an issue in a lot of people's eyes, a lot of Christians' eyes, is because it's a really super rare occasion that you have marriages that last any decent length of time without any kind of sexual relationship going on. It's possible, which is why I would say that gay marriage, that commitment to each other, isn't necessarily what's wrong. It's the physical part of it. But it's rare to not have the physical aspect to that. Taking another step back even further, especially among Christians and religious people, I'm gonna go with Christian perspectives because that's what I'm most familiar with. Where I think Christians will generalize way too much with this is that they'll somehow treat gay marriage and homosexuality in general like it's somehow a greater sin than anything else. Even if you do say, okay, homosexuality is wrong, it's not any more wrong than murder or stealing or cheating or lying, really. Lying is mentioned far more times in the Bible than being gay. You got to include any and all sin in that same boat. So it's not that we should encourage homosexuality as Christians, but I don't think we should shun people and push them away for committing a different kind of sin. Because that's it. It's just a different kind of sin. It's not like it's any greater than any others. So I personally am not going to, push anybody away because I find out that they're gay or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to just hop right on board with them and be like, oh yeah, uh, being gay is fine even though you're a Christian. I'm not gonna go quite that far with my personal view and beliefs because I I don't believe that is the ideal that God has for us. Brief aside, again, in terms of the generalizations on this, assuming that it's a choice, I think is where a lot of people kind of jump the gun a little bit on this. I'm not sold on the fact that there is absolutely nobody in the world that is just kind of naturally biologically wired in a way that makes them attracted to the same sex. Taking a look back at the issue as a whole, from not necessarily one specific side or another, I just think the way that our society handles love and the way it interprets love and the different kinds of love that there are, it very much twists, mixes up, mashes all that together so that it's kind of confusing for someone who's trying to find their way and figure out their own sexuality and, what actually makes them attracted to somebody else. People will start thinking that because they had a certain reaction to seeing someone of the same sex, that because I had this reaction, I must be gay or lesbian or whatever. That skewed perception that we get from the media sources kind of makes us think that, oh, any brief little inkling of a reaction is a sign of something deep down within us that we've been trying to repress or ignore or that we're just discovering that it, is meant to be permanently part of us. I can get into far more detail on that, but that's a topic for another time. Um, so that's all I've got for you this time around. Kind of. Next week, I will be talking about something similar yet very much different, but it's still heavily related to this. So if you want the full array of thoughts that I have on this topic, stay tuned for next week's video because I will get even further into detail in that one. Next week's topic is one that for me really throws a bit of a wrench in the gears of my thought process from the moral perspective, really from any perspective, but especially from the moral side of it. It brings up even more questions for me personally. That is all I have for you this time around. If you are new to the channel or new to this series, I encourage you to go back and take a look at some of my previous videos, especially my introduction to my channel and what I'm doing with my videos in general, but also with this series, my introduction to that. Just go to the start of the playlist on my channel and it should be the first video that's right there. Those will both give you a lot more perspective on what I'm doing with my videos in general, but also specifically with this series, how I'm, connecting all this stuff together and what kind of the broad theme is for this summer hot topic series thing that I'm doing. With that being said, I hope you are all doing well, and I hope to see you in the next video. Later.